I don't want to see poor people. No, I really do. I care about poor people more than any socialist I know on the planet. I'm serious. I love human beings. I love humanity. I love people because I love myself. And I love life. And therefore I love other beings that are alive, particularly sentient beings who can think. And I think it's a massive tragedy that we have 3.5 billion people who are still poor. And I know why they're still poor. They're still poor because we haven't bought them capitalism. You want to make Africa rich? Give the peasant property over his land. Give him property rights. And let him start a business. You know how long it takes to start a business in some parts of South America or Africa? A month or 2. You know how long it should take to start a business for a young entrepreneur in Africa or in South America? A day. He should be able to file some document for, I don't know, for tax purposes or whatever, and that's it. And start a business. So statism, socialism, welfare statism has enslaved the poor. We keep them poor, we keep them down. Capitalism is the only system in human history, the only, emphasis on only, system in human history to be beneficial for poor people. Okay. That's fact.
I am very glad.
She's in the minority in this room. She's in the majority out there, the minority in the room. So respect her courage in standing up and asking a question. It's good.
That brings me to the second point.
Yeah.
You said the way to enrich a poor farmer in Africa is to give him the land. Sure, I agree. I agree that Bill Gates has every right in the world to his wealth. But don't you think that saying that giving a piece of land to an African farmer is utopia? The main argument that capitalists have against socialists is that they're utopians. You can't have everybody happy, you can't have everybody being wealthy. But that brings me to the last point and the last question, and that is, how can we speak of a utopia, actually, of capitalism? And the other thing that you said about people, the basis of capitalism being producing and being able to produce a product. Well, what would you do with all the people that could not produce? The old people, the people who need help.
Good question.
Lonely people, and people without any money.
So, first of all, I mean, it's ridiculous to claim it's utopia when for 3.5 billion other people it's already happened. Right? 3.5 billion people might be poor, but 3.5 billion people are not poor. There are about 7 billion people on the planet, or something like that. So it's already happened to a lot of people. In places like Rwanda, in places like, I can't remember, the country, I think it's Botswana, one of the countries adjacent to South Africa. Congo. I don't think it's the Congo. Congo's a disaster, but I think it's Botswana. But people are getting property rights. That is actually changing right now. Instead of sending Africa foreign aid, which does nothing to help them, and you can read about the corruption of foreign aid, where dictators are funneling their money into Swiss bank accounts. Instead of giving them foreign aid, let's go over there and teach them about capitalism. Let's teach them about property rights. We learned Europeans are not superior to Africans. We're not a different racially superior people. If we could learn the benefits of capitalism, they can learn the benefits of capitalism. Let's go teach them. Let's go help them establish this. Let's undo whatever damage we might have done as colonials. Let's bring them freedom to Africa instead of perpetuating poverty by handing them checks and telling them everything's okay. You don't have to change at all. You'll be fine. Here's a check so you don't starve tomorrow. Which is treating them like children, worse than children. It's treating them as if we're racists, as if we're superior. And there's a system that works for every human being who's tried it, every country that's tried it, every race that's tried it, and it works. Asia used to be dirt poor 50 years ago. Dirt poor, just like Africa. And yet the Asian tigers, these little countries, established property rights, allowed for trading, allowed for free markets, allowed people to open businesses easily and legally. And guess what? They're all rich now. South Korea is rich. Japan, which was devastated by World War II, became rich because of capitalism. Not to mention Taiwan, and even places like Thailand, which still had a lot of poor people, are much richer than they were 30, 40 years ago. Why? Because they established elements of property rights. That's not utopian. That's That's very realistic. It's happening every day somewhere in the world. I was just in Colombia, in South America, where they're still very poor people, but they've turned a corner, and they're starting to see real economic growth, and poor people are starting to gain property rights, and they're getting better, and capitalism works for them, just like it works for every single country that's ever tried it. There was another part of the question, and now this is the problem when you ask too many questions. I'm getting old and I can't remember them. Oh, I can't produce. But let me finish the point about utopia. Utopians want to change human nature. They want to change the very foundation of human nature. I don't want to change human nature. I want to build a system for human nature. You see, I believe human nature is what Aristotle said human nature is, which is human beings are the rational animal. I want people to live up to their rationality. Not to change their nature, but to live up to it, to rise to the challenge of being rational and using their reason. That's not utopian, that's just high expectations. And I have high expectations of my kids, my co-workers, and you guys. What happens to people who can't take care of themselves? Now first let me say, that's a very small number. You mentioned old people can't take care of themselves. But old people have had a lifetime to save so that they can hire people to take care of them. In capitalism, you make a lot of money, you can save. Before the welfare state, people used to save. I know saving is unpopular. We're told to consume, go buy stuff. God forbid you should put some money in the bank for when you're old and you might need some help, right? Old people traditionally were also helped by their children. There's a certain relationship of children and parents. Love relationship, but now we say, children, don't care about your parents. Consume, and let your parents consume. The state will take care of them for you. So, take care of yourself is one, if you can. Some people cannot, but if you can. Your children can take care of your family, if we want to broaden it. If they can, some people can't. There's always going to be a small percentage who really can't, right? But it's a small percentage. So what happens to them? Now let me ask you people, right, this group of capitalists, greedy capitalists, right? How many people here want to see those people who can't take care of themselves dying in the streets? You guys are greedy capitalists. How many people here would be willing to put a few dollars, put a little money, because it's not a lot, because it's a small group, to a charity to take care of these people? How many of you would be willing to contribute to a charity to take care of people who really cannot take care of themselves? Now, there's your answer. The answer is that if we, in a capitalist society, one of the things that happens, and you could see this in the 19th century in America, is people are very benevolent. They care about other people. Capitalism is an economic system of love. There's a new one for you. Objectivism, by the way, is the philosophy of love. We love life. We love ourselves. We love freedom. We love reason. We love other human beings who contribute to our success. We don't want to see people die. We will voluntarily help them. What we don't accept as capitalists, as objectivists, we don't accept the idea that you have a right to force me to participate in a scheme I don't want to participate in. If I want to help this person over here, I should do it out of my own free will. You don't have a right as an individual, as a group, to put your hand in my pocket, or Steve Jobs' pocket, or Bill Gates' pocket, and take the money out and give it to them. If I want to help them, and Bill Gates is obviously wants to help people, so he's charitable, there are lots of charities, but you don't have a right to force me. Any more than you have a right to force me to worship a God, or a right to tell me who to marry or who not. You don't have a right to tell me what to do with my money. It's mine. I made it. I worked hard for it. It's mine. I might choose to give it to the beggar on the street. I might choose not to give it. Because, you know what? My son needs an operation and I need the money to pay for his operation. Or he needs money for school or whatever. It's my values that should dictate how I use my money, not your values telling me how I should live. And this, by the way, is an ancient debate between two great philosophers, Plato and Aristotle. Plato said, you know what, guys? You don't know what's good for you. You need the philosopher king to tell you what's good for you. You need them to tell you how to take care of the people you want to take care of, what to do with your money, what profession you should have, who to marry, and everything. And Aristotle said, no. Each one of us has reason. Each one of us can figure out what's good for ourselves. We don't need philosopher kings. We're the philosopher king of our own life. I'm on Aristotle's side.
I have a question.
I don't know where the mic is.
So
They're distributing the mic.
there's a question.
Don't talk to me, talk to whoever has the mic. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So I want to refer a little bit back to what you were saying at the end of your lecture. Isn't it like the people adapt to the certain political system, economic system they live in? Isn't that they adapt to the environment? Shouldn't the economic system go first, let the people adapt and pursue their own self-interest and just
But people don't
in the best way that the system provides them to?
Yeah.
So.
People don't automatically pursue their self-interest. If they did, we would live under laissez-faire capitalism today. It's in their self-interest to have capitalism. But they don't. We came close to capitalism in the 19th century, and yet we turned our backs on it. We rejected it. So the economic system does not determine who and what you are, and doesn't determine what you will advocate for or against. People in Chile right now have done very, very well under an economy that's relatively free, and have twice now voted for a socialist president committed to undoing all the economic progress that they have made. And they voted for it. So it's not deterministic. We're not determined by our economy. We're determined by our deepest beliefs. And those deeper beliefs don't have anything to do with economics. They have everything to do with morality. So what? So I have to sacrifice. Sacrifice is good. Sacrifice is noble. So I'll make less money next year in the name of some social, social utility, some socialist grand plan. People commit suicide every day, spiritually and materially. So you're not, just because you establish capitalism somewhere, doesn't mean anybody is going to come. And doesn't mean it's sustainable at all. You need the philosophical foundation for it.
But you do have to agree that in a certain system, the people, even they take their chances, they simply do want to make themselves better off.
So why are Americans voting for higher taxes, more regulation, more controls every single election? Why do they vote for it?
People don't really have the power to...
Sure they have the power. Sure they have the power. If there was a movement in the United States to move away from statism, look, we get the politicians we deserve. You can blame politicians for all your problems. That's a huge mistake. We get the people we deserve. We choose them, we elect them, we don't run, we don't participate, and we get the people who represent the people. Politicians are chameleons. They don't have ideas. They reflect back what society wants them to do. That's what they are. They don't come up with original ideas. They're looking at you and saying, oh, I think you'll like a tax cut. Oh, that person, he doesn't mind increasing his taxes a little bit. That's what they do. If we all believed in capitalism, we would have capitalist politicians. But we don't. If you do survey after survey in the American street, do you want smaller government? Yes. Are you willing to cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? No, 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 no. I mean, people don't really want to cut anything. Do you want to do away with the Federal Drug Administration that checks our food? No, because I don't trust them. I don't trust free markets. Nobody trusts free markets. So it's a much more fundamental battle. This is why I tell libertarians, as long as you just stay on the economics, you will lose. We will lose. Because people don't care that much about economics. Yep. He wants the microphone, so at some point pass it back to him.
Good evening, my name is Michael, and I want to ask you about institutional issues of capitalism. Because you told us about the banks, and many people hate banks. Actually, I don't hate banks. I hate banking system because of fractional reserve banking, which the capitalism is based on banking system since
the beginning of banking.
No, not since the beginning of banking.
Beginning of banking. The
Modern
first money
capitalism
changes, we're doing fractional
Modern
reserve.
capitalism is based on Federal Reserve, actually. And we see,
Not
we
true.
see that every...
Not true. The goldsmiths in London who invented banking were issuing certificates for every gold depository, and then they figured out that they could even loan it at the same time.
That was in previous centuries.
Fractional reserve banking came before central banking.
Okay.
That's just a fact, historical fact.
Okay, but today, nowadays, fractional reserve is actually privileged from government, and I think it's unfair. Because if I want to have more money, I have to work hard. When banker wants more money, they just pay.
Do you know how many hours bankers work? I bet you they work harder than you do. Particularly investment bankers. Do you know what hours they work? Do you know to become an investment banker, when you come out of college, is 100 hours a week of work? I mean, this whole anti-fractional reserve banking, with all due respect, is completely misplaced. There's nothing wrong with fractional reserve banking in a free market. In a free market, there would be fractional reserve banking. It's a contract. The people depositing their money know what they're doing. They know what they're getting. If you want a bank that doesn't have any fractional reserve banking, you can establish one and compete with other banks. There's nothing wrong, in spite of what Rothbard said, with fractional reserve banking. Fractional reserve banking is an important engine of economic growth. Read Larry White and George Selgin, who are big advocates of free banking with fractional reserve, not without it. Bankers are hated not because of fractional reserve banking, and not because they don't work hard, because that's ridiculous. Bankers work very hard, and they have regulators, breathing down their neck. The financial system is broken because of the central bank and because of banking regulation. And I hate the central bank and I hate bank regulators. I don't hate bankers. Bankers are trying to make a living just like we're trying to make a living. They're using their mind to create profits. To the extent that they're profitable, it means that they're providing me a service. Without bankers, I couldn't have bought my house. Without bankers, this never gets off the ground. Do you ever see Steve Jobs when he got his first check from a venture capitalist? A banker, right? You ever see him? He stunk. He never showered. He didn't believe in showers. He had long hair.